Let's consider this application of the parabola. Let's say a new suspension bridge is to be built across the river. The two supporting towers, they'll be 82 meters tall and 315 meters apart, and cables are going to be attached to the top of the towers that will support the bridge deck. At the cable's lowest point, the height of the cable is 40 meters above the water. So the question is, how high above the water will the cables be at a point 20 meters horizontally from the base of one of the towers? Is to draw a diagram. So we've got some towers here. Let's make this one of the towers. And over here we'll make this another tower. And bridge deck. And so the cables are attached here, and the cables will come down and come back up. Something like that. That look a bit like a parabola, hopefully. And down here is our water. All right. Now, we know, what do we know? We know that this distance here is 82. So is this. And we know that this distance here is 40. And we know this whole horizontal distance is 315. All the way across there. So we have to come up with an equation for this function, this parabola here. Well, if we're going to come up with an equation, we need the equation of a parabola, which we know looks like this. So we need to find a vertex and we need to find A. Now the vertex is probably easiest if we pick this point right here. So let's say this point right here is going to be our vertex, and you know what? Let's make that the point 0, 0. Because if we can make that 0, 0, then we've just found that P is 0 and Q is 0. So our equation has just become y equals ax squared. But in order to find A, we need another point on this parabola. And the only point I can see us getting that's of any use would be this point right here. So if this is 0, 0, I need to go x, this distance, which would be half of 315. So half of 315 is, let's just make sure I do this right and not make a mistake, 157.5. So my x value up here is going to be 157.5, and my y value is going to be, well, it won't be 82, because 82 is the distance from the top of the tower all the way to the bottom. So the distance from here to here would be 82 minus the 40 meters that this bridge deck is above the water, or this cable at its lowest point is above the water. So this height will be 42 meters tall. So I now have an x value and a y value. And so I can enter the y value into my equation, and I can enter the x value into my equation. And to isolate A, I'll divide everything by 157.5 squared. And I'll go to my calculator, and I shall put in 42 divided by 157.5 squared, and get a very small number for A. So when you see something like this, 1.69 and then this E minus 0.3, this is not the number 1.69. It means 1.69 times 10 to the minus 3. So it's put it in scientific notation, which means the decimal needs to go to the left 3 places. So we could write it like this if you want. 1.69 times 10 to the minus 3 would be 0.00169. So the equation is y equals 0.00169 x squared, where x is the distance left or right from the origin, and y will be the height from the origin. Okay, so now that we have an equation to model this parabola, we should be able to find the height of this cable anywhere from the origin. So let's look at what the question asks. How high above the water will the cables be at a point 20 meters horizontally from the base? So it wants to know what would this height be right here when we go 20 meters away from the tower. Well, the problem is we are measuring from 0, 0. This is our vertex here. So we need to know how far is this distance here. Well, we knew that this was 157.5 all the way over. So if we go 157.5 minus 20, then we have our x coordinate. So x would be 157.5, which is the distance all the way from the origin to the tower, but we're 20 meters away from it. So that's 137.5 for x. So now I can substitute that into there and get 0.00169 x squared. So go into the calculator. And that's good. I've already got this number in here, so I'm just going to go times 137.5 squared equals 32 meters. So y equals 32 meters. So we've just found this distance right here. And the question wants how high above the water. Well, that's where we got to add the extra 40 meters here, because that's how much the distance is below our vertex. So the total height would be the 40 meters that it takes to get to the bridge deck, plus the 32 meters that we got above the vertex of our parabola. So the height of the cables above the water would be 72 meters if we were 20 meters away from the base of one of the towers.